Why is it important to re-elect Donald Trump? Occupying Till He Comes at Southwest Prophecy Ministries. Welcome, friends. This is David Schnitker, your host for today's program. Thank you for joining us. Just a reminder that these programs are supported by your gifts to this ministry. If you would like to contribute to this ongoing faith ministry, which deals with Bible prophecy and current events, simply go to our website to contribute. Our website address is www.swpm.us. You will find a donate link on the homepage. The website address again is www.swpm.us. Thank you for your prayers and support for this faith ministry. It is a great privilege to have Carol Rushton on the program today on this November 2nd, the day before the presidential election. I've had the joy of knowing and working with Carol for many years at a previous ministry, and she wrote our October Last Days Beacon article entitled Voting Biblically. I just happen to have a copy with me. What a coincidence. Anyway, I will share at the end of the show how you can obtain copies of this timely article. Well, Carol, it's great to have you here today.
Well, it's great to be back.
This is a kind of a special program. We've never done anything quite like this before, but it's very timely. This is Monday, November 2nd. November the 1st, I'm sorry. No, November 2nd. Yes, November 2nd. The day before our presidential election. And I just thought it would be a timely theme for us to address the question of why it is important to re-elect Donald Trump as our president. And my mind was stimulated along these lines when I ran across a quote by Joel Skousen. Joel Skousen is the editor of the World Affairs Brief and a well-known author of Strategic Relocation. And so he wrote a brief quote that I want to begin with today to kick us off and to get us thinking in terms of the importance of the presidential election. And his little quote is entitled, 2020 election is about the survival of Western civilization. So let me quote from this. He writes, it is not just Donald J. Trump that is up for re-election on November 3rd, but the entire ethics and justice system of Western civilization. Everything we believe in, including the Judeo-Christian code of ethics founded in our belief in God as the ultimate arbiter of justice at the end of this earthly testing period, is at risk in this election. Not because God's ultimate justice will fail, but that the forces massed against us intend to destroy all of our tools to fight for our rights, including free access to true information, freedom to speak out against what we know to be wrong, freedom to peaceably assemble and protest emergency orders, freedom to choose and buy and sell in the increasingly monopolized marketplace, and even freedom of association, which we are losing with each new anti-discrimination laws. All of these core fundamental rights and their historic legal safeguards are now being labeled as racist or an expression of white dominance and capitalist oppression because they do not yield equality of results, which is impossible under liberty and free judgment, which sees both individual good and merit and the lack thereof. That is why the left hates judgment, because it highlights and exposes evil, wrong thinking, and bad performance. As the numbers of corrupt and flawed individuals grows in our society through permissive parenting, permissive education philosophies, permissive government, and increasingly corrupt social media/entertainment content, the more attractive the socialist war cries of oppression, racism, and discrimination in minds of those eager to rationalize and justify their own chronic bad behavior and resistance to conscience. Voting for Trump won't stop this corrupt trend, but it will buy us a few more years to prepare against the full avalanche of bad laws the radical left is eager to unleash on America starting in 2021 if Biden wins. Well, this is a sobering evaluation by Joel Skousen, and one in which I fully concur. So the issues before us are mammoth. The results of tomorrow's election will influence the lives of our children and grandchildren should the Lord tarry. So today we're going to be talking about just two issues which are reason enough to reelect President Trump. Let's talk about, to start with, school choice. And I believe, Carol, you have some articles in that regard.
Yes, I do. And I have them before me because I want to quote President Trump exactly, because I think that's very, very important. Don't want to just generalize what he says. I want to quote him exactly. So much misinformation comes across the airways and the internet. We want to make sure that we get everything correct. Donald Trump has said that school choice is the civil rights statement of the year, and he made this statement back in June of 2020, so I want to quote him directly. He said, "We're fighting for school choice, which really is the civil rights of all time in this country. Frankly, school choice is the civil rights statement of the year, of the decade, and probably beyond. Because all children have to have access to quality education. A child's zip code in America should never determine their future, and that's what was happening. So we're very, very strong on school choice." And that is absolutely correct. Conservatives have been fighting for school choice for many, many decades. And this is so important, especially for minorities, because more often than not, minorities are the ones who have their children in failing school districts, especially African Americans. And it's a tragedy when so many bright young children don't know how to read, don't know how to do basic math, just adding and subtracting, can't follow simple directions or instructions, just the basics of life that you need just to get just a basic job and to stay off welfare and government programs. President Trump is absolutely 100% correct, and this has been a great initiative of his. The Education Secretary, Betsy DeVos, she's been pushing this as well. And school choice is so very, very important. We want to, I'd like to also remind everyone that during the Obama-Biden years, President Obama defunded school choice programs for the schools and Black Americans in Washington, D.C. And many of the Black parents, or African American parents, were very, very distressed because he ended those programs, those school choice programs. They had taken advantage of those programs to get their children into better schools.
Let me interject. My daughter was a teacher in a charter school in Washington, D.C. It was a church school, met at a church, wonderful, excellent school. Obama defunded it. They had to shut down the school.
Yes, and it was a tragedy for the teachers, tragedy for your daughter, and tragedy especially for the children.
Absolutely.
Because they suffered, and they were being punished. And this should not be. I mean, if you have a good public school system in your area, that's one thing. But many children do not, and they should have the choice. They should have the right to be able to choose where to go to school. And unfortunately, this is not what's happening right now, so I'm really glad that Donald Trump has made that a great initiative is. I wanted to let people also know that under President Trump, his administration has allocated $85 million to support disadvantaged students in the Washington, D.C. area. So he is refunding some of the programs that were ended during the Barack Obama, Joe Biden administration. This is why it's important, again, to contrast President Trump with Joe Biden, because he was a part of the former administration who defunded these school choice programs.
And we know, of course, that Washington, D.C. is a majority African-American city. And so this $85 million to support school choice in Washington, D.C. will primarily advantage African-American students.
Yes. I'd like to quote from another article. This was from AP News, Associated Press News, and this was back in September. And that he said he was speaking at the White House, and Donald Trump said that there is nothing more important for the African American community, and nothing they want more than school choice. And this is absolutely correct. Most African American parents and families want school choice, and it's sad that there is only one political party in the United States, that major political party that deals with this as important.
Let me play the devil's advocate.
Okay.
we are aware that the so-called public schools, actually the government schools, are very opposed to President Trump's initiatives, such as money for charter schools.
That's correct.
Advocating school choice. Now, you would think that the government schools would desire to have the best, most qualitative school choices for students possible. Why are the government schools so opposed to school choice?
Well, because when a child or a family chooses to put their children in like a private school or a charter school, then the money that's allocated for that child leaves the public school system or the government school, and it follows them to the private school or the Christian school or the charter school. So the government schools lose that money. And
now, surely you're not implying that they're concerned about money. It's all about the education of the students, isn't it? It's not about money and power, is it?
No. There was this. I think past president of the American Federation for Teachers. I can't remember the gentleman's name, but he came out very squarely and says we're advocating for you, not for you, the teachers, not you, the students. So they want better things for the teachers, not necessarily the students. So it's sad that this is the way things are in the government-run schools. But it's all about the money.
So who owns these students after all? Is it the parents or is it the school?
It's supposed
the government school.
It's supposed to be the parents, not the government.
Yeah. So this is really, I agree with President Trump. This is a real civil rights issue, and it goes back to the fundamental issue is who do your children belong to? Do they belong to you? Is it your responsibility to give them the best educational opportunities they possibly can have, or do they belong to the government?
Yes.
To basically be the passive recipients of government propaganda.
Absolutely. And so I'd like to just quote a little bit from, we don't have time to quote the entire article, but just some of the goals that President Trump has. He says that no parent should be forced to send their child to a failing school or one that is not a good fit. And the nation's report card shows that nearly 2/3 of our children are not proficient readers. That is horrible, especially for somebody who loves to read.
Wow. That
condemns them to a life of being on welfare. And we don't want that. We want to have a successful citizen.
Or servile, low-paying jobs because they don't have the educational tools to succeed.
Right. And so there are also 50,000 students that remain on a scholarship wait list. So these on one particular state that has a Democrat governor, some of the initiatives that President Trump is trying to do is they want to take action. They're taking action to restore local control. This is so important. Local control over education and stop federal overreach that limits teachers and students. They has directed a minimum of $200 million in annual funding since 2017 to prioritize STEM and computer science education. Very, very important. Let's see. The administration has invested nearly $1.5 billion in the development of public charter schools, helping these these schools grow to more than 3 million students. And he's also secured permanent funding for historically black colleges and universities. Now, the great author Thomas Sowell, he recently wrote a book on school choice. Can't remember the name of the book, but you can find that, I'm sure, on Amazon. I'm sure it's an excellent book. So these are just some of the things. And also, right before we end our discussion on education, I don't know if people have heard of the 1619 Project. This is by Nicole. This was a program that was initiated by Nicole Hannah-Jones. She bases her 1619 Project on the premise that 1619 was the year that black slaves from Africa were imported into Virginia. So 1619 is the year, she says, that we should designate as starting the United States of America, not 1776, but 1619. And therefore the United States, the founding of the United States was based on slavery. And the War of Independence from Great Britain in the 1770s was not to ensure independence for American colonies and for Americans, but was to enshrine and make sure that slavery continued as an institution. So I'd never heard that before. Now President Trump has said he's going to defund any public school system that has or initiates the 1619 Project into their schools.
That's great.
And he says that the Department of Education is looking at this. If so, they will not be funded. They will lose their federal funding for their school system if they initiate or they have institute the 1619 Project into their school systems. And he says that it's a racially divisive revisionist account. Oh, this was Senator Tom Cotton from Arkansas, excuse me. Senator Tom Cotton from Arkansas said that the 1619 Project is a racially divisive revisionist account of our history that denies the noble principles of freedom and equality on which our nation was founded. And President Trump is quite right to defend any public school system that
so Trump is not only interested in providing America's students with school choice, but he's also wanting to reform the content of curriculum so that students will actually be taught to love America rather than to hate America.
Yes, and this is why we're seeing some of the riots in our country.
They've been well educated, haven't they?
They've been indoctrinated. They've been brainwashed to think that America is the most hateful, racist country that's ever been on the face of the earth. Actually, the United States of America has done more to ensure liberty and freedom for people around the world than any country that's ever been.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to transition to I think you've already begun to transition into the discussion of critical race theory. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. We have been talking today with Carol Rushton on the very timely topic, why is it important to re-elect President Trump? So we are going to take a quick time out to hear from our sponsor, Freedom Health Alliance. Friends, we have a brand new sponsor of the Southwest Prophecy Ministry podcast. It is Freedom Health Alliance, a wonderful independent company that produces some tremendous products for your health and safety. As you are aware, we are experiencing escalated attacks on our personal rights and freedoms. This includes a complete and utter war on natural health products. We are right around the corner from the cold and flu season. Freedom Health Alliance strongly encourages the silver liquid and the silver gel to help support the immune system naturally through the upcoming season for your families. Silver gel, as you can see in the dispenser bottle, can be an amazing hand purifier. Unlike the hand sanitizers that are being forced on us that contain ethanol, alcohol, and numerous toxic chemicals, these hand sanitizers actually strip the good bacteria from our skin, leaving our immune system open and compromised to further attack. Freedom Health Alliance Active Silver Gel is 100% natural. It contains no toxic chemicals and is pH balanced to work in harmony with the immune system. Many people are shifting to silver liquid, which you can take internally. A couple of spoonfuls a day will help your immune system, and silver gel to help boost your immune systems this time of year. Thank you. Welcome back. We have been talking with Carol Rushton about the very timely and relevant topic of why we need to elect Donald Trump and why the issues go beyond him personally, but really the American system of liberty and justice for all. It's not just a phrase, it's the values that we want to preserve. So let's transition to another reason to reelect President Trump, and that is critical race theory. Maybe some of our listeners are not familiar with that, but Carol, you're going to fill us in.
Yes. This goes all the way back to Karl Marx. When Karl Marx put forth his series on communism and Marxism, he designated two groups. He divided everyone into two groups. There was the proletariat, who were the workers, the people who worked in businesses and factories and did work. And then there was the bourgeoisie, who were the business owners. And so he said that the bourgeoisie were the ones who oppressed the proletariat, who were the workers. And if you were a business owner or a factory owner and you had people that worked under you, or you employed people, you were automatically the oppressor. And the people who worked for you were automatically the oppressed. And Karl Marx tried to get people to rise, the proletariat, the workers, to rise up and overthrow the bourgeoisie. And it never really worked very well because they just wanted higher wages, and when they got their demands met, then they were happy, and they didn't care about this.
No revolution.
No, they didn't care about this communist revolution bit. And so in the 1920s, the Frankfurt School of Marxism said, well, this is not working out very well, so we have to develop something else to bring about our communist revolution. So they came up with what is now called critical race theory, and that means that if who you are is automatically determined by the color of your skin that you're born with. So if you're white, you're automatically a racist and a white supremacist. And
the bourgeois.
You're the bourgeois. Oh. And then if you're black or olive-skinned, brown, if you're Hispanic, Latino, African American, whatever Asian, whatever you classified as your skin color, you're automatically the oppressed. And so it doesn't matter. You can be LeBron James and make $100 million a year, but you're automatically
He does look oppressed to me.
Yeah, very oppressed, very oppressed. So you're automatically, oppressed. It doesn't matter how much money you make or how successful you are. You're automatically oppressed based on your skin color. Now, I'm not going to give out my income, but I don't make anywhere near LeBron James's, and I don't have a mansion.
So that theory kind of falls apart in reality, doesn't it?
I think so. I mean, I live in a very modest little apartment. And
so your white privilege hasn't elevated you to the level of a LeBron James.
No, not at all.
But you're not making millions of money off of Chinese slave labor like he does.
No. So, but I'm automatically oppressing other people simply because of my skin color. And you can see how the communists have used this, especially in communist China, because they use the same principle, only in a different way, because especially during the Cultural Revolution, it depended, your status with the Chinese Communist government and Mao Zedong depended upon how aggressive you were in fomenting the revolution. And if you wore Western-style clothes, if you had your own home, you were automatically marked as an oppressor, and you were punished. And during the Cultural Revolution, if women wore nice dresses, Red Guards, who were the younger people, the youth, would come out to them and slash their dresses or slash their their nice clothes, or if somebody was wearing a nice hat, they would take it and destroy it. If a woman was wearing high heels, they attacked their shoes and cut up their shoes or took the heels off. You know, this is what happened during the Cultural Revolution. So it's the same type of principle that communists have used not in other countries. So it's terrible. And Donald Trump has said that critical race theory is like a cancer. And this comes from an article from Newsweek that was published on September 24th of this year. And Donald Trump said, that hateful Marxist doctrine paints America as a wicked nation that seeks to divide everyone by race, rewrites American history, and teaches people to be ashamed of themselves and be ashamed of their country. That's not happening anymore. We fired so many of these wise guys. We had one getting $350,000 a year teaching our military this stuff. What happened? We said, you're fired. Done. Get out. He said this critical race theory, it's become a cancer. It's like a cancer, but they're gone. They're all gone, and if they're not, let us know, and we'll let them go. So
during the Obama years, we as American taxpayers were paying for these people to make $350,000 a year to indoctrinate our military, the very ones that we are trusting to defend us against the enemies, foreign and domestic, to hate America.
Well, one of them did. I'm sure that some of them could have made more, some could have made less, but they teach these things throughout all levels of the United States government. And so President Trump has kicked these out. He says he banned them in the executive branch of the government earlier this year, and then he expanded that ban to include U.S. government contractors and their employees. So as far as he's concerned, he's trying to stamp this out. And it really does. It teaches you, no matter what country you're part, it teaches you to hate your country. It teaches you to hate your founding. It teaches you to hate the principles that your country was founded upon. And no, the United States is not a perfect country. We've never been a perfect country. We'll never be a perfect country because we're composed of imperfect people. But we have strived to maintain and implement the founding principles that this country was founded upon as well as we possibly can. And critical race theory has no place in the United States of America or in any government.
Well, this really kind of goes back to what we were talking about before the break with the 1619 Project.
Yes.
It might not be called critical race theory, but it's promoting the same idea that America, from its origins, from its founding in 1619, has always been a racist country that has always oppressed minorities, the whites, of course, and so we have to destroy the entire history. That's why you see these Marxists pushing down statues of Christopher Columbus, George Washington,
Abraham Lincoln,
Abraham Thomas, the great emancipator.
Yes.
Apparently he was a racist too.
I guess so.
So basically, like the Taliban, destroying our entire history because of this critical race theory, this idea that America is inherently racist, so we have to tear it down, start over again, and of course punish the white oppressors like yourself, for the sin of being white. So it really is a reverse discrimination issue, isn't it?
Yes.
So the white people, and I didn't have any choice about being white, and I'm sure you didn't either.
No, I had no choice
We have to pay for the supposed sins of our predecessors, and reparations and absolution and confession, and all of these things are outgrowths of this critical race theory cancer.
Yes. Yeah. And Donald Trump, I want to end with this. He said Americans should be taught to take pride in our great country. And he says, and if you don't, there's nothing in it for you. And he's absolutely right.
And I've heard him say that he's going to be developing with Betsy DeVos and the Education Administration a new curriculum, the 1776 curriculum.
Yes, excellent
that
idea.
will teach the true history of America and will instill patriotism in our young people.
Yes,
so
excellent idea.
So these are long-lasting effects of tomorrow's election. So, friends, whatever you think of Donald Trump, maybe you don't like his exaggerations, maybe you don't like his arrogance, whatever it is you don't like about him, it's really irrelevant in the long run, isn't it?
Yes, if you don't like his tweets, well, I don't like all of his tweets either. But there are bigger issues here that we need to consider.
Right. The fact of the matter is, he didn't need to do this. He was a billionaire. He's lost about $2 billion in net worth as a result of serving for free. By the way, he's not on the government payroll. He donates his government money to good causes. He doesn't need to do this. He does it because he loves America.
Yes.
And because he's concerned about the kind of country that he will leave to his children and grandchildren.
Yes.
And we should have the same concern as American citizens. So let me just issue a final charge to you, our listeners. If you are a registered voter and you have not yet voted, let me encourage you to make that your first priority tomorrow. Early voting might still be available in your area. Certainly take advantage of early voting. Go out tomorrow, regardless of the weather in your area, regardless of the length of the lines. You're actually investing in the life of your children and grandchildren. So please go. Take your friends. Take your enemies. Well, don't take your enemies because they might vote for Biden. But anyway, take your friends and go out to vote tomorrow. So, Carol, we're out of time for today's program. Thanks for joining me for this very timely discussion. And let me just again say, the history of our great nation hangs in the balance. And vote as if your vote can make all the difference, because it might. Well, friends, we are today offering an excellent article to accompany this interview. It is our October 2020 Last Days Beacon article entitled Voting Biblically. This will be a keeper for elections to come, because the issues and biblical values do not change. The persons, the personalities, the parties may change, but these biblical values that Carol articulates in this article never change. You may order 5 copies of this article for a donation of $5 or $25, 25 copies for a $15 contribution. Just go to our website, that is www.swpm.us. Go to our bookstore, type in the subject, Voting Biblically. The website address again is www.swpm.us. Well, friends, thank you for joining us for today's podcast. I look forward to seeing you next time. Until then, this is your host, David Schnitker. Thanks for listening.